Hello, welcome to Be Free Yoga. I'm Inger, y'all know Rosie, and this is Ananda, my daughter, who will be our assistant today. This is our second yoga pose tutorial designed to help beginners get familiar with basic yoga poses and more advanced yogis to hone in on their form and alignment. It builds on our first tutorial where we covered the opening part of our yoga class, and now we move on to the warming up. This is our Sun A, which is a simple flow we do 1 to 3 times to start building heat in our body. And it's when we begin to link breath with movement. For class, you just need your mat, a couple of blocks, a strap. You might want to just go ahead and set a loop in your strap that's roughly as wide as your shoulders today. And you may want a blanket for support. And even though a lot of us don't really enjoy practicing with a mirror in class, it is helpful to have a full-length mirror nearby when you're doing these tutorials so that you can really check your alignment. Sometimes you could swear your knee is stacked over your ankle, and it's really not. So the theme today is, how does it feel? You will remember in our first tutorial, we talked about the concept that you can't really tell if someone's doing a yoga pose correctly based on how they look. The only person who knows is the person who's doing it, and it's based on how they feel, whether they feel the opening or the deepening or the lengthening. So we're going to dive deeper into that inquiry of how does it feel? And you can use that to really get to the heart of the poses today and to make choices that are right for you. I don't know if you've ever gotten into a yoga pose and you're just like, man, this pose feels awesome today. It's just what I needed. And that's because there's so many benefits to all the different yoga poses that we do. And I wish I could list them all for you every time I cover a pose in these tutorials, but it would just take too much time. So before we got started today, I thought I might just summarize the different categories of yoga poses and tell you a few of the benefits. And Ananda will be kind enough to demo some samples of those kinds of poses while I'm talking. So the first one is twists. Anytime we twist, we are compressing the abdominal organs inside our body. And then when we untwist, fresh blood floods that area, bringing nutrients and oxygen. So twists are really detoxifying to the body. They're also really good for any back and neck problems. Next, forward folds. Forward folds similarly compress the pelvic organs, our reproductive organs, increasing circulation there. It soothes the nervous system and, as you might guess, encourages introspection because you're folded in on yourself. Back bends improve spinal flexibility, also really good for neck and back issues. It encourages diaphragmatic breathing, which increases our lung capacity. Nice. Also, it lowers stress and anxiety. Inversions. If you've ever done inversions, you'll know that it helps you gain strength and a new perspective. We're turning everything upside down. Technically in yoga, an inversion is any time that your heart is higher than your head. So it includes down dog, it includes shoulder stand. These improve your circulation because blood is running naturally back to your heart and therefore boosts immunity. And then finally, balancing postures. Balancing postures help strengthen your equilibrium receptors, help you to find your center of gravity. It's so important as we age and are more likely to fall down to have really good balance. It also helps us learn the principle of rooting down in our life and on our mat. So that's it. those are some of the benefits, many benefits of the types of yoga poses that we do. Now we'll get started in child's pose. So set your props to the side, come down onto your shins, knees as wide as your mat, and big toes together to touch. Reach your arms forward and rest your forehead on the mat. Remember, if you want a little support, you can put your rolled up blanket underneath your hips or underneath your ankles. And start to settle in, let go of everything that's going on outside this room. Take a full deep inhale. And then an open mouth exhale, fog up your mat. Again, inhale through your nose. And on the exhale, feel your belly sink down between your thighs. Since we're warming up today in our Sun A, we'll begin with a warming breath, our Ujjayi breath, the breath of victory. On your next inhale, seal your lips and breathe in with a slight constriction in the back of your throat. And then exhale through your nose with that same constriction. You'll notice a slight oceanic sound as you breathe in and out. Try and make that sound equal on the inhale and the exhale. You can use this warming breath all throughout the flow of class. On your next inhale, walk your hands forward, lift your elbows, come into an active child's pose, press into your hands, and then round your spine up and come into tabletop. Wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Start with some barrel rolls, just jump rope your spine. First in one direction a few times, and then in the other. Get your whole body moving. Come back to center. Inhale, spinal balance. Reach your right arm forward and your left leg back. Scissor your thighs together to level out your hips. Imagine being pulled in opposing directions. Reach through your heel, fire up your back body, big breath in. Exhale, crunch. Round your spine, draw your elbow to your knee. Then inhale, lengthen. Remember, you can just do this with one arm or one leg. In Yoga Pose Tutorial, we gave lots of options for spinal balance. One more crunch. Come back through your sunbird or spinal balance. Big breath in and release. How's your left wrist feeling? Are you doing your tiger claw? Remember, you use all the parts of your hand to relieve pressure on your wrist. Next, inhale, sunbird on the other side. Left arm forward, right leg back. Dial your right hip down. On the inhale, lengthen. Exhale, crunch. Draw your belly up and in. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, crunch. One more inhale, lengthen. Maybe you're just using your arm or your leg. Exhale, crunch. You can still get this good action. Lengthen one more time. And come back to tabletop. Prepare for beast pose. Spread your fingers wide. Push into the pads of your fingertips so that your palms lift up off the floor. Tuck your toes. Inhale, hover your knees off the floor. Press into the earth. Puff up the valley between your shoulder blades. And then draw your shoulders and your hips together to engage your core. If your knees don't come off the ground, you can just feel that engagement nonetheless. 3, 2, 1. Exhale into down dog. Send your hips up and back. First down dog of the day, so let your knees bend and focus on flattening your spine. Push down and forward to lift your hips up and back. Open your shoulders. Pedal out your legs. Relax your head between your biceps and rotate your inner elbows forward. Remember, if you have hyperflexible arms, to keep a micro bend in your elbows. Inhale, look to the top of your mat. Exhale, take tiny steps forward, or just tiny steps forward for ragdoll. Feet hip-width distance apart. That's 2 fist lengths in between your toes. Generous bend in your knees. Feel your torso hang heavy over your thighs and then hold opposite elbows. Shake your head, yes. Shake your head, no. Let your weight shift forward into the balls of your feet. Focus on opening up your back. One more breath in. Exhale, release your grip. Toe heel your feet together, big toes together to touch. And then roll up slowly with soft knees and a heavy head, one vertebra at a time. Your head the last thing to arrive. When you get to the top, roll your shoulders up and back. And then bring your hands to your heart, close your eyes, samastitihi. Today, remember that you don't have to be graceful, strong, or flexible to do yoga. Rather than trying to perfect each posture, use my cues to move you deeper into the postures. Fully embody them and keep checking in. How does it feel? Take a full breath in to seal this intention. Exhale, release your hands, open your eyes. And now we move into our Sun A. Inhale, mountain pose. Sweep your arms high. Pick up all 10 toes and glue them down on the floor. Activate your knees and your quadriceps. Draw your belly in. Wrap your shoulder blades. Imagine wrapping them around the sides of your body to inwardly rotate your arms. Palms face each other. You will often hear teachers say to lower your shoulders, and sometimes you'll see people with their shoulders scrunched way up by their ears. But anatomically, the best choice is just to allow your shoulders to lift naturally as you reach high. This is the same action that would happen if you were in a handstand and you were pushing into the floor. Beautiful. Now we're going to pause for a moment and talk about a neutral pelvis. So for a neutral pelvis, the ideal is to have a small curve in your lower back, a small lumbar curve anterior to the front. So some people have a big anterior curve, tips forward like that. This could be because you're holding a little extra weight in the front of your belly, or maybe you went through childbirth. Whatever the reason, if that's the case, to neutralize that, you just draw your belly button into your spine. Beautiful. And you do that just until you have that nice curve. Other people have the problem of a posterior pelvic tilt. It might be hard for Ananda to do. It's common in men or people who sit at desks a lot through the day or have really tight hamstrings. If that's the case, all you have to think about is sticking your tailbone out, and that'll bring you back to a neutral pelvis. Now, keeping this neutral pelvis can be more challenging when you have your arms overhead in mountain pose. So everybody go into mountain pose, maybe look in the mirror, maybe reach back and feel with your hand, and see what you need to do to obtain a neutral pelvis. Wrap your arms in. Ground down to get taller. Big breath in. Exhale, back bend cactus arms. Bring right angles into your arms, elbows at shoulder height. Trace your gaze up the wall and onto the ceiling. Look up, bump up your heart. Engage your glutes and your belly to support your lower back. And big breath in and exhale, release. Let's talk about back bending a little bit. So safe back bending is really important. We do back bending standing, on the floor, in all kinds of situations. If you need to relax your arms, you can. I was playing with that. I'm kidding. So naturally, when we back bend, we tend to want to back bend from our lower back because this is the most flexible part of our spine. It can be the most dramatic. We can bend way back. But actually that area is also the most prone to injury for the same reasons. So in yoga, we want to stabilize our lower back and work on opening our upper and middle backs. So keep that in mind anytime you're back bending. So how do we do that? If you're ever doing a back bend and you're like, oh, I feel this in my lower back a little, there's 3 things you can do. The first thing is to draw your belly in. That's called engaging your Uddiyana Bandha. And engage your glutes. Sometimes you will hear yoga teachers in class in a back bend say to relax your glutes, but if you really want to stabilize your lower back, the best way is to engage your glutes and your core. So you're back bending, you're doing that, but you're still feeling it in your lower back a little bit. The next thing is to visualize lifting through your heart space. Let's see what that looks like. Ananda, say you're really engaged, you're back bending. Now think of lifting through your heart space. Oh, look at how that just bumped it up into her upper back a little bit more. And then if you're still feeling it in your lower back, your third option is to come out of it a little bit, right? Because our inquiry today is how does it feel, not how does it look. You'll notice when I'm back bending, like there's really not a lot of back bend going on. I'm not very flexible in that direction. And an onlooker might be like, is she even back bending at all? But I don't care because I feel a nice, safe, solid opening. And that's what's important. All right, so let's all meet in mountain. On the inhale and then exhale, back bend with cactus arms. Engage your glutes, engage your belly, lift through your heart. Press the backs of your hands to the back of the room. Then inhale back up through mountain and exhale forward fold. Bring your hands through heart center. Engage your glutes and your hamstrings to help you lower slowly from the waist. So we're sort of offering our heart forward with a long spine as we fold down. Nice slow transition. When you get there, shift your weight forward into the balls of your feet and imagine lengthening the back seams of your legs. If the floor is far away from you in this position, you always have your blocks to bring the floor closer to you. Imagine you've heard me say this before probably, a faucet on your tailbone, and you want the water to drip down your back and off the top of your head. Try and create that downward slope. Remember all the wonderful benefits of forward folds, introspection. Take one more inhale here. On the exhale, sink a little deeper. And then inhale, halfway lift. Bring your hands to your shins and create a number 7 in your body. This is a great one to look in the mirror to see if your torso is parallel with the floor. And I'm just actually a little bit low. There you go. That's great. You don't want to push on your knees, of course, ever. You sort of want cow in your spine. So think about reaching your tailbone high, closing your shoulder blades on your back. It's very helpful to bend your knees a little bit or a lot. If I have my knees completely straight, it's hard for me to get that nice flat spine. But as soon as I bend my knees, I can open up so much more. So feel free to bend your knees as much as you need to. to achieve cow in your spine. Tweeze your shoulder blades together. Spread through your collarbones. And then check in with your head. You want your head in line with your spine. Yours might be lifted a little. Yeah, perfect. Nice straight line. So everybody try that. Maybe look in a mirror. One more inhale. And then we move into Chaturanga Dandasana. You may just want to take a seat while Ananda and I demonstrate. Bring your hands to the mat. Step back to high plank. We learned high plank form in Yoga Pose Tutorial 1. You have the option to be on your knees as well. If you're on your toes, hinge forward slightly, come onto your tiptoes. And then lower halfway, grasshopper your elbows towards the back of the room. Inhale, up dog. Go onto the tops of your feet, float your knees and thighs off the floor, and then exhale into down dog. Lead with your hips. Beautiful. So that's sort of our little vinyasa flow. We're going to break that down now, looking at some common mistakes in the Chaturanga Dandasana, which is the high to low plank. So the most common mistakes we see in high to low plank is people going more than halfway down and dumping into their shoulders. If you collapse down, see how she's sort of angled down and her shoulders roll forward? That creates a lot of stress on the joints. If you don't have the upper body strength to fully do a high to low plank, you're gonna collapse more and sort of catch yourself down here when you can't go any further. It's actually much harder to stop halfway and to keep your chest open as you're lowering down. I think both Ananda and I in yoga teacher training were required to do chaturangas on our knees for a whole month. And we both agree that it was extremely valuable. I highly recommend it. Even if you can do them on your toes, it just improves your form tenfold. It really helps you to figure out where that halfway mark is and to keep your shoulders open as you lower. You want your elbows in at your sides. Sometimes in yoga classes, you'll see people doing these like dramatically beautiful chaturangas. Ananda's gonna demo. She used to do this before teacher training. Oh, so graceful, so lovely, and so bad for your shoulders. You'll notice when she does that, she enters it from a diagonal, putting stress on her shoulders, going too low, and then comes into up dog. Now let's see the difference when she does one properly, from down dog to high plank, lowers halfway, comes into up dog. See that? So that's what we want. But it takes a while to build up on that. So we've already discussed the option to be on your knees. That's a great one. But sometimes some of my students, they'll try it on their knees. They can get the high plank on their knees, but they do not have the arm strength to lower halfway. One great thing to do is just bend your elbows a tiny bit at first. That just starts to slowly build it over time. So you may just lower a couple inches and then come into your up dog. That's totally fine. Do that as many times as you can throughout class to build up your strength. Another option is to come into tabletop and then cow pose instead of up dog. So from halfway lift, you'd be here, and then I'd say exhale, chaturanga. You could just come down into your tabletop and then come into cow. You also have the option to come into high plank on your toes or your knees and just hold it, and then come into up dog. So you can modify Chaturanga Dandasana in a million different ways that work in your body. Anything else? Oh yeah, the strap. This is fun. If you want to feel what it's like to actually stop halfway down, you can take your strap, which you've already set up, I think, and bring it just above your elbows and in front and under your chest. Then come into your high plank and lower halfway, and you're stopped at the halfway point. Isn't it fun? It's like a little shelf for your body. It's a great way to feel what halfway actually is. Beautiful. Thank you, Nanda. I think that is everything I wanted to say. It's helpful to remember that you're sort of fighting gravity on the way down, not dumping down. So you want to go slowly. So let's all meet in halfway lift. We'll do a chaturanga, and then we'll talk about up dog when we get there. Find your halfway lift, cow in your spine. Big breath in. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Plant your hands, step or hop back to high plank. Option to be on your knees. Lower halfway or less. And then inhale, up dog. Straighten your arms. Come onto the tops of your feet. So we just had a big conversation about back bends. This is a back bend. So Nanda's going to engage her core and her glutes to help stabilize her lower back. I like to have my thighs and knees hovering off the floor. And Nanda, lay yours down. Show what it's like when you don't. You might notice it's much easier to dump into your collapse into your shoulders and strain your lower back. But as soon as you lift your thighs and knees off the floor, it engages everything and keeps you safer. If that is not possible in your body, just remember to have that type of engagement, like you want to lift your knees and your hips, and then keep your back safe with your engagement in your cobra. So in upward facing dog, we're pushing into the earth, creating space in our shoulders, drawing your shoulders away from your ears. Internally rotate your thighs, look to the front of the room, and open through your collarbones. Inwardly rotate your thighs, open your shoulders, look forward. Beautiful. Now we're transitioning into down dog. This is very important. Lead with your hips, draw your belly up, tuck your toes, and move into down dog. Gorgeous. So a lot of times I see people in up dog use their shoulders to power this transition. They'll tuck their toes and watch me. Now I'm using my shoulders to try and push. That's so much stress on my shoulders to lift all my weight that way. It's amazing how just a different outlook, thinking, okay, I'm going to lead from my hips, and I draw my hips up and back, and the shoulders just follow along. So that's a much safer way to transition. You guys already know your great down dog form from Yoga Pose Tutorial 1. So we've already discussed the options for up dog. You might have gone into tabletop, and then instead of up dog, you're doing a cow. If your hips and thighs are still on the floor, we call that cobra, extended cobra. That's an option for you too. And then tuck your toes into down dog. Then look to the top of the room. Now you can step to the top of the room, or you can hop. If you're gonna hop like Ananda, you'll spike your heels, bend your knees, lift your hips, look forward, and then float your feet in between your hands. That's an advanced move. Maybe you're doing it already. I'm not gonna cover it in detail. The other option is to step forward between your hands. It's what you'll see me do in most of my videos. But that doesn't work for everybody. Sometimes it's helpful to swing your leg wide as you step forward, especially if you're holding any extra weight in your body. And then I have had students who love just walking their hands and feet together. That's a great way to transition. And then you can just come forward and meet at the top of your mat. So again, how does it feel? What works for you? Ask these questions along the way. Okay, we did it. That was our Sun A flow. Now we're going to link breath to movement and do it 2 more times. Try the different options, see what works for you. Inhale, halfway lift, hands on your shins, flat spine. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, mountain swan dive up, push in your feet as you rise up. Exhale, side bend, lightly clasp your left wrist with your right hand. Lengthen and then bend to the right. Face both shoulders towards the front of the room as your hips move to the left. Maybe look up past your armpit. On the next inhale, release your wrist, come back through center. Lightly clasp your right wrist, lengthen, and exhale, side bend. Stack your right shoulder over your left. Look up past your armpit, feel a nice stretch in your lat, your shoulder. On your next inhale, rise up, release your grip, and exhale, forward fold. Hinge at your hips, hands through heart center. Shift the weight into the balls of your feet, lengthen through the back seams of your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Check in your mirror, make sure your body is parallel with the floor, open through your heart. Big breath in. Exhale, Chaturanga, plant your hands, step back. Can be on your toes or your knees, lower halfway. Elbows at your side. Inhale, up dog. Float your knees off the floor. And exhale, lead with your hips into down dog. Full breath in, reach your tailbone high. Exhale, sink your heels low. Inhale, look to the top of your mat. Exhale, step or hop to the front. I'm going to do some of the other options. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold even deeper. Inhale, swan dive up, mountain. Exhale, open twist to the right. Bring your right arm back and your left arm forward. We're demoing some different things that you might do at the top of a mountain. You might do them at the top of the mountain, but I mentioned at the top of the mountain pose, what might you do? You'll notice naturally when you open twist off and your hips twist a little bit in the direction you're looking. So it's always good to recenter your hips facing the front. This brings the twist out of your lower back and into your upper and middle back. Then by looking back over your shoulder, you're bringing the twist into your cervical spine as well. You want your hands at shoulder height, reaching in opposing directions. That looks great. On your next inhale, come back through mountain, reach high, and exhale, open twist in the other direction. Roll your left shoulder down your back, hands at shoulder height. Check in with your hips as your left hip come back, send it forward. Look to the back of the room. Inhale, back through mountain. Exhale, forward fold. Use your glutes and your hamstrings to help you lower. Slowly shift your weight forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Squeeze your shoulder blades on your back. Exhale, Chaturanga. I'll do the tabletop version. Inhale, up dog. And exhale, down dog. Take a full deep inhale and a full deep exhale. Now look to the top of your mat and come through to a seat. Nice work. We rocked that, Sun A. So once you have that basis of a safe flow that works for you, I find that yoga classes are a lot less intimidating. So in the privacy of your own home, you can figure out, oh, this is how I like to do my vinyasa flow. So we're gonna just wind up our little tutorial with some shavasana. Come into staff pose, flex your feet, legs long in front of you. Then anchor the back of your legs down onto the floor. Reach your arms forward and slowly lower down onto your back, one vertebra at a time. Let your feet fall out, arms at your sides, palms facing up. Open your hips and your shoulders, relax the muscles in your face. Reconnect with your breath and get heavy in your bones. I'll close with a quote by Adil Palkivala. True yoga is not about the shape of your body, but the shape of your life. Yoga is not to be performed. Yoga is to be lived. Yoga doesn't care about what you have been. Yoga cares about the person you are becoming. Yoga is designed for a vast and profound purpose. And for it to truly be called yoga, its essence must be embodied. We're going to rest here just for a few moments, integrating all the work we just did. How does your body feel? Before you attempt any movement, start to deepen and lengthen your breath. And wiggle your fingers and your toes. Circle out your ankles and your wrists. Let your head fall to one side and then to the other. Then come back through center. Reach your arms overhead, point your toes, soften your belly, let your lower back arch up. Big breath in. And exhale into fetal pose on your favorite side. Curl up using your bicep as a pillow. And cozy into this posture of rebirth for a moment of intention setting. This week, if you're faced with a decision you need to make, you're at a crossroads, or you find yourself triggered, just tune in and ask yourself how you feel. Remember that you have the power to make choices, be in relationships, choose your beliefs that help you to feel empowered, supported, strong, and loved. On your next inhale, press into your top hand. With as little movement as possible, come up to an easy seat on your mat. Bring your hands to your heart, relax your shoulders, ground down through your sits bones, and reach the crown of your head to the sky. Take a full deep inhale and an open mouth exhale. And bring your prayer hands to third eye center. The light, the love, the teacher, the student, and the hot mess in me recognizes and adores the light, the love, the teacher, the student, and the hot mess in each of you. Namaste. Namaste. Could you guys hear Rosie like growling in her sleep? That was so cute. Thank you so much for coming to Yoga Pose tutorial number 2. We're making a lot of progress. Next time we'll move on to our Sun Salutation B, which is a really meaty, exciting part of the class. And I hope you all have a great week and carry this just after yoga feeling with you into the rest of your day. Thanks a lot. See you next time.